A personality isn't something that we can see. It's invisible. It doesn't have a form. But it's perfect for abstraction. So by choosing certain lines, shapes, and colors, you can represent what you feel your personality might be like. All right. So we're drawing our personality. I love topics like this because you can interpret the topic in many different ways. I like to start with some ideas that are going to guide what I'm drawing. I might want to put a couple of words that I think of when I'm thinking about my personality. Talking. I like that one. Aware. I feel like it's very important to know what's going on around you so that you can respond to it and maybe find opportunities that you didn't know were there. Create. I like to create things. Routines. I like routines. They provide some structure to some of these other ideas that are a little bit less structured. I'm going to transform these words into shapes that I think represent the ideas I'm trying to communicate. And since this is a picture of my personality, I almost see it as a portrait. So that's why the paper is tall, the way a portrait would be. Because we have the idea of routines, which is structured, matched up with being aware of everything else that's going on around you in the world, which is typically not structured. Throughout this artwork, we're going to have elements that are organized versus elements that are less organized. The idea of awareness makes me think of a neck-like structure that's up and looking around. And if my personality is looking around, I need shapes that represent the things that I'm looking around for. I might also need something that represents me grabbing those opportunities to turn them into ideas. So let's see. This is a good opportunity to add in some of that structure. I measured those out and I cut it in half, and then I cut it into fourths, and then I cut the fourths into eighths so that it's pretty evenly spaced. But now we're going to turn it into something a little less organized. All right, one thing I don't particularly like are these long, plain, smooth areas. So I'm gonna have to add something in there. And again, this is where I can work in that routines, structured, orderly part of my personality. So we'll just add something that's spaced them out. All right, so I don't necessarily have an explanation for why this is shaped this way now. It just kind of felt like that's how I want it to be shaped. And again, part of your personality are those things that maybe you can't really explain. I love drawing lines in this way that have lots of unexpected curves and turns. So, if that's something I love to draw, it seems like it's a legitimate thing to put in a picture that is illustrating my personality. All right, so it kind of opens up the space down there. The only thing left, I think, I'm gonna try to put something ordered and structured into the background. I'm just gonna use my ruler for that. Okay, so there we have it, a picture of my personality. Some things to remember. This is a picture of your personality. It's an abstract concept, so it's going to be an abstract artwork, which means that there isn't really a wrong answer to the way that you interpret the picture. Number two, it might help to jot down a list of ideas you want to illustrate. It'll keep you focused on the ideas that you want to be most important in the artwork. Remember that you can erase anything that you decide you don't like. So take some chances. If you try an idea and it turns out that that's not exactly what you want, you can always erase it. After I finished this sketch, I did make some decisions about certain things that I wanted to change. So a couple of things that I'm gonna do is, first, I'm gonna change these triangles. I like the triangles, but I'm gonna put them into a different style this time. Another thing I want to change about this picture is these shapes that are reaching out. I decided they look a little too much like tentacles. Don't be afraid to erase things that you don't like. As you can see with these shapes, I had to erase a few of them numerous times until I got them exactly the way I wanted them. So if something doesn't look the way that you want it to, erase it and try it again, and it might look better the next time. This shape I'm going to be filling with circles. The last thing that I need to do is put the shapes that represent the kind of like the inspiration or the opportunities that are floating around in the background. I'm going to put those shapes back in, but I want to make them bigger, and I want to make the centers a little bit bigger so that I can color them in. So they're still going to have these cool little fluffy things, but the center of the fluffy part is going to be wider so that it can get colored in. The sketch that we started off with now has a lot more detail, and things that weren't necessarily working so well have been changed to be more effective. Now, before you just start picking random colors, it might be a good idea to decide on a color scheme. A color scheme would be a small group of colors that you believed work well together. It's never good to use every single color you have at your disposal. You might want to test out colors on a separate sheet of paper before you decide on what group you want to use. I decided to go with purple, yellow, and blue. I like that purple and blue are more harmonious because they're close together on the color wheel. And I'm going to use yellow as a color to stand out because it's on the opposite side of the color wheel. Remember, it's very important to color as neatly as possible. It's going to have a big effect on the final product. I've decided to outline everything first so that I can erase all of the pencil lines. If I try to color over the pencil lines, some of the lines will be visible through the color if the color's too light. Because I outlined the shapes before I started coloring them, and I'm coloring the shapes in different colors than the outlines, this artwork's starting to have an illustration feel to it. I can use that to my advantage later on when I add details. I can thicken lines and add illustration style techniques to add more details to the shapes after they're finished being colored. And here it is, the finished abstract drawing of my personality. You can see how the yellow is the color that creates the contrast. It's the color that pops really brightly against the blue and purples, which are more harmonious. So I think the color scheme I picked was pretty successful. I also went back and added lots of details with thinner lines after I colored everything in. So I think this turned out to be a pretty successful piece. I hope you enjoyed following along, and I'll see you next time. Bye.